So welcome back to week 6 of the 2026 Lead Generation Masterclass. I'm your host, Alex Smith. And over the last 6 weeks, our community has been growing at leadeth.io/school. If you want to be a part of that, feel free to check that out. I can pop a link in the chat later on. So today we're looking at the 48-hour engagement window. So the 48-hour engagement window. And this one's quite a really cool session because it kind of picks up on that momentum that we've built over the last previous 5 weeks. So we're going to break this down into 4 sections today. Why the window exists, moving beyond LinkedIn, and the 3 message sequence template, which we've explained about before. And we're going to look into automation and the window and how that can help. So, right, a quick question for you in the room. Do drop a comment if you're watching this on YouTube or LinkedIn, wherever you're watching this in the community. When someone accepts your connection request on LinkedIn, how long do you typically wait before sending your first message? Now, you can be super honest here. There's no judgment. I just want to see where everyone is starting from. Because here's the thing. That answer, that timing decision, is one of the most critical factors in whether your outreach actually converts or falls flat. The moment someone accepts your connection request, an invisible clock starts ticking. You have just 48 hours. That's it. 48 hours where LinkedIn's algorithm will give your message priority visibility in the inbox and in their inbox, other people's inboxes. After that 48-hour priority window closes, your message then drops down the queue. And you're now competing with every other message that possibly exists. And there's going to be quite a lot out there. So people have so many distractions in today's digital world. They have notifications pending, all sorts of, distractions. And this is not theory. This is how LinkedIn's algorithm actually works. And understanding it, that one fact, that's going to transform your response rate. So today we're going deep into the 48-hour window, why it exists, how to use it properly, and the exact sequence that turns accepted connections into genuine conversations at rates that most people think are impossible. So let me show you why this matters so much. Let's start by understanding why this 48-hour window exists in the first place. And it's not arbitrary. LinkedIn designed it very deliberately and for a good reason. When someone accepts your connection request, LinkedIn sends them a notification, X has just accepted your connection request. And in that moment, they are already thinking about you. They've just made a micro decision. Yes, this is the person worth connecting with. And your profile is going to be really fresh in their mind. They might even still have your profile open. And this is your moment of maximum relevance. If you send a message within the first 48 hours, LinkedIn treats it as a continuation of that connection event. So your message appears near the top of their messaging list and it gets a notification. It has priority. Then after that 48 hours, that priority disappears and you're just another message, just another notification, just another person waiting and wanting their attention. So let me show you the data. We've analysed thousands of LinkedIn outreach campaigns and the pattern is absolutely consistent. Messages sent within 24 hours of connection acceptance, 42 to 48% is the average response rate, whereas messages sent between 24 and 48 hours, there's a 35 to 42% average response rate. So, that's a a marginally difference going from that 24 hours and then to the 48 hours. If your message is sent after the 48 hours, this plummets down to 18 to 25% an average acceptance connection rate. So this is not a marginal difference. This is a complete transformation in performance. It's the same message, the same targeting, different timing, but dramatically different results. So if you wait 3 days, a week, or maybe longer, that moment has passed. They have moved on. They're not thinking about you anymore. The message becomes an interruption rather than a continuation. And the 48-hour window is about striking whilst the iron is hot, not in a pushy way, but in a strategically smart way. So the psychology here is very simple but powerful. Recency matters. So when someone has just accepted your connection, they are in what we call LinkedIn mode. They're engaged with the platform. They're open to new connections and they're very receptive. If you wait 3 days or a week or even longer, then that moment has passed. They've moved on. They're not thinking about you anymore. That message is going to become a bit of an interruption rather than a continuation. So that 48-hour window is about striking whilst the iron is hot, not in a pushy way, but in a strategically smart way. Now, here's what most people do wrong. They either wait too long, thinking that they do not want to seem too eager, or they send an immediate automated pitch that just destroys the goodwill that the connection created. And both approaches really do fail. Waiting too long wastes the window, and pitching too aggressively, too fast, burns the relationship before it's even started. So the strategy, this is what works really simply. Send a genuine value-driven message within 24 hours of acceptance. No pitches. This is just a natural next step in the conversation that you started with the connection request. Section 2, the 3-message sequence. So let me give you the exact sequence that consistently delivers 40 to 50% response rates. 3 simple messages, very specific timing, and a very specific structure to the messages. And this is not theory. This is what we're noticing is actually working and generating results for us in 2026. Message 1. So this is sent within 24 hours of the connection acceptance, and ideally within 12 hours. This is your value delivery message. Remember, in your connection request, you offered something. So it could have been a resource, an insight, a piece of advice, a perspective. So message 1 is where you deliver on that promise. So it's all about value. The goal is value delivery. We're not pitching. It's not going to be thanks for connecting. I would love to tell you about what we do. Instead, Sarah, as promised, here is the framework I mentioned for reducing customer onboarding time. It's 2 pages, very practical. Let me know if you have any questions about how we implemented it. Do you see the difference there? You're continuing the conversation, you're delivering value, and you're providing that, that person that you're connecting with is of value to you. So it just proves what you're talking about in your messages. The structure is very simple. It's like this. There's a opening. So again, a very brief, friendly acknowledgement. Sarah, thanks for connecting, for example. We then have the delivery section. So delivery is all about immediately delivering that value that you promised. So it could be, here is the framework that I mentioned. We then have a context to the structure. And this is just one simple sentence explaining why it's useful. We use this to cut our onboarding from 14 to 6 days, or something like that. And then we move into that soft close. So this is the low pressure exit. So let me know if it's helpful. No pressure either way. And that's it. So 4 super simple components. And then what we see on the back of that is 60 to 80 words in total. But it delivers value, it builds trust, and it creates a natural reason for them to reply. And when that message 1 is done really properly, within that 48-hour window, you should see a good 40 to 50% of response rates, sometimes higher if your targeting is really good and they might be a slightly warmer prospect. But if you're getting lower than 30%, then something's wrong. Either your targeting is off, maybe your connection request that you set up didn't provide the value, or maybe your message 1 was just not delivering that genuine value. So think about looking at the stats. If you can start to measure the acceptance rates, then that makes you make super easy data-driven and decisions based on the data. That's what you want to get to. So message 2 is typically sent 3 or 5 days after message 1. And that's only if they have not replied. Obviously, if they've replied, we don't want to, we need to humanly respond appropriately in the right timing. And that message 2, excuse me, it really doesn't want to be a pitch. It's an engagement question, a genuine, relevant question that's going to invite more conversation. Think of it as curiosity, not nagging. So you might like this. Did you get my last message? No. Try this. Just following up to see if you're interested. Or instead, Sarah, quick question. When are you onboarding new customers? What is typically the biggest bottleneck you run into? And that shows that you're genuinely showing that curiosity about their world. You're inviting them to share their experience, and you create this easy, natural way for them to engage. The best engagement questions are really specific to their role or industry, and they're not generic. So when you start to use AI and it's scanning and scraping their profile and their recent posts, then these questions are really nicely aligned, and that encourages a much better, stronger acceptance rate. The question has to be easy to answer. It can't be too complex. It can't be too time-consuming. It's got to be genuinely interesting to discuss, not boring or obvious, related to the value that you offered. And that keeps the conversation really coherent. So 3 examples. What's your biggest challenge with X right now? Another example could be, how are you currently handling Y? Or what approach have you found works best for Z? Simple, direct, it generates curiosity. And these questions get responses because they easily make it super easy for people to answer. And people just love sharing about themselves and their own experiences. So it gives them that platform. Message 2 typically adds another 10 to 15% of your total response rate, because not everyone who ignored message 1 will reply to message 2, but a meaningful number still will. Some people are just too busy. Some may have missed the first message, and some just need a gentle nudge to engage. So that message 2 starts to catch those people. Now the soft close. Message 3 is sent normally between 5 to 7 days after message 2. And again, that's only if they've not replied. And this is your soft exit. So you're acknowledging that perhaps now is not the right time, but you've also got to leave the door open for them. So don't say, I will keep following up until you respond. It's not one last try. Instead, try something like this. Sarah, no worries if the timing is not right. I will stop bothering you now. If things change and you want to revisit this conversation down the line, I'm around. All the best. And sign off. It's got to be friendly. It's got to be professional, graceful. Are you releasing the pressure completely? And paradoxically, this often gets a response when the first two messages do not. It's a weird thing, but the soft exit works really well because it just removes that pressure. And people hate the feeling of being chased. They hate the feeling of being obligated. When you explicitly say, no worries, I'll leave you alone now, then kind of what that says is that gives them permission to engage without feeling trapped. Now, some people will reply at this point and just say, actually, sorry for not getting back to you. I've been meaning to. And then the response, that reopens the conversation. But message 3 typically adds another 5 to 8% to your total response rate. It's not huge, but it can be meaningful. So that's why we always have a 3-step sequence. Some people give up after that first message. Never give up. Keep going, keep going. 3 messages. So when you run this 3-message sequence properly, starting with that 48-hour window, message 1, you should see a 40 to 48% response rate. Message 2, an additional 10 to 15%. And then message 3 is an additional 5 to 8% onto that response rate. So the total response rate, you're looking at around about 55 to 65%. And that's from people that you've just connected with. That's extraordinary. It's new people. So if you think of cold email, I mean, people say, 15% is what they're getting as an open rate. But on the open rate, the reply rate is way down. It's like 2%, 3% reply rate. And obviously, a reply rate is a bit like a response rate. It could be a positive response. It could also be a negative response. So just bear that in mind. Okay, so section 3 is moving beyond LinkedIn. Now, let us talk about when to move beyond LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is brilliant for starting conversations, but it's not always the best place to close deals. And here's the framework. LinkedIn starts the relationship, and then email continues it. Phone or video calls, that's when they close it. So someone may have responded or replied to your LinkedIn message, and you've had a meaningful back and forth engage, suggesting moving the conversation to email. And then that's where you would sign off. This has been a great conversation. Would email be easier for you to continue this? Here is mine, and then share your email address. And most people will give you their email address at this point because you've built trust. They're engaged, and moving to email feels natural. Often when you scrape emails on LinkedIn, they're just going to people's personal inboxes quite a lot of the time. A lot of people don't put their corporate work email because they don't want it tied in with their own personal LinkedIn account. So when you get that email come through, you know that deliverability is going to be very high because it's directly from them. And email is a far less noisy channel than LinkedIn. LinkedIn's full of notifications, connection requests, messages, content, and distractions, whereas email is much more focused, it's more personal, and it's more direct. So when you move to email, the conversation deepens, and people write longer replies, they share more detail, and they take it more seriously. So LinkedIn is like a cocktail party, but email is the coffee morning. Both have their place. Now, once you've had a substantive email exchange back and forth, that's when you suggest the call. Not before. Offering Zoom calls and chats straight away in LinkedIn DMs is just far too early. So you might say, it sounds like there might be something worth exploring here. Fancy a quick 20-minute call this week to discuss properly. And that's fine through email. Short, direct, it's very low pressure. Fancy a quick call is much better than, I would like to schedule a meeting to present our solution. One feels a little bit more like a conversation, and the other one feels a little bit more like a sales pitch. So let me save you some pain by highlighting some top 5 mistakes that kill conversations. Mistake number 1 is pitching too early. If you're trying to sell in message 1, then you've wasted that 48-hour window. Value first. Always add value. Mistake number 2 is waiting too long between messages. So 3 to 5 days is perfect for message 2, but if you wait 2 weeks, the momentum is just gone, it's lost. And mistake 3 is sending the same message to everyone who does not reply. So if message 1 did not work, then message 2 should not be identical. You need to adapt it. Mistake number 4, not tracking what works. You need to know your response rates at every stage. If you don't measure, then you can't improve. So what gets measured gets improved. And finally, mistake number 5 that we see a lot is people just giving up far too early. And this is, 3 messages is about the right number. 2 is not enough, but 5 is probably too many in this process. So 3 is kind of the sweet spot. Let's move on to section 4. Section 4 is the automation. So as you know, I'm a great fan of automation. I've got my own automation tool at Leadeth. Check it out. If you're pretty tech savvy, I encourage you to check out a free trial of the tool. Head over to leadeth.io. In fact, head over to DIY. Do it yourself, diy.leadeth.io. That will take you to the new SaaS landing page where you can access and start a free 10-day trial of the Leadeth tool. But this is basically, you can. There's a lot of things that you can automate that you can't automate. Yes, last week we spoke about that. But this is, you've got to, whatever you do, you've got to do it intelligently, and that's the key thing. Automate the timing. So set up your tool or Leadeth to send message 1 within 24 hours of acceptance. So by default, as soon as a connection request is accepted, people are then pushed down to the next stage in the funnel, and that happens automatically. If you want to put a longer delay there slightly, you can do that. Message number 2, put in a 3 to 5 day delay. Message 3 then needs to be a maybe 5 to 7 day delay. So 3 and 5 or 5 and 7 if you're stretching out that pipeline a bit longer. If you've got if you've got less prospects, then obviously if you stretch out the timing, your lead data will go a lot further that way. But do automate that base template. So have your core messages pre-written, and you can leave space for personalization. Automate the tracking. So your tool should be tracking and logging your response rates. You should also be tracking the number of conversions. So if a meeting comes of that initial LinkedIn conversation, we need to know. So you need to track it. So you can either set up a basic spreadsheet to track those conversations, or use a tool like Leadeth, which easily just makes managing 20 conversations a day in one go super easy, because you don't have to think about it. It just does it for you. But you need to flag the replies, the people that are replying to you. And that allows you to then take over manually with the right sort of responses in your tone. Keep the personalization manual. So if you're using templates, just adapt them for each person. Reference something specific about their business, their profile, their industry. We've actually got an AI hook helper now, which helps compose those 3 messages using the 4 steps, the hook, the bridge, that soft close, the value piece, which is really clever. It's super clever, and we're seeing some really good results with AI. But try to keep those bespoke replies manual. Let AI open the conversation and start something off with people, and then always step in if you can. You've got to take over real conversations from this point forward, and keep the channel transitions manual. So when you suggest moving to email or booking a call, that's you. Don't let the bot do it. My bot's failed so many times in terms of booking calls. They've got better and better, but they're just still very robotic in terms of the back and forth of when you can book a call or when you can't. If you can share calendar booking links, that does still work quite effectively. but I think the manual approach, especially if you're talking high ticket, B2B, is my preferred method. So the hybrid approach, that's the best approach. So automation is handling all of your timing, the sending and the tracking, but then you get to step in and handle the personalization, the replies, and that relationship deepening. And that gives you the efficiency of automation with the authenticity of human connection. So you've got best of both worlds. So a bit of an action plan for this week for you. Day one, what I want you to do is to audit your current timing. When are you sending follow-up messages? Are you inside or outside of that 48-hour window? Day two, build your 3-message sequence using the frameworks we've covered today and in previous weeks. Write them down properly and then test them on maybe 5 connections. Day 3, set up your automation to handle timing correctly. So 24 hours for message 1, 3 to 5 days for message 2, 5 to 7 days for message 3. Action number 4, or day 4, track your response rate. So at each stage of the customer journey, measure absolutely everything. Data will tell you what is working and what's not. And finally, by day 5, you get to review and optimize. So what's the total response rate been across those 3 messages? If it's below 50%, diagnose why. Go back through the video, check you've not been made in those 5 mistakes that we mentioned earlier. So the mindset that I need you to adopt here is this 48-hour window is a gift. So LinkedIn has built this priority into their algorithm deliberately. Most people waste it, but you're not going to. You're actually going to use that window intelligently, respectfully, and strategically. And your response rates are really going to reflect that discipline. So next week, we're going to be diving into content and outreach integration, how to use LinkedIn content to start warming up your audience before you ever send them a connection request. We're going to look at how to identify who is engaging with your content so you can reach out with that context, and how to build a content engine that makes all of your outreach so much easier. It's going to be a game changer, and especially if you're using the Leadeth tool, because we've got an AI bot which is powering the content engine. So that's quite exciting. It's been a delight to share this masterclass with you today. Looking forward to next week when we look at content and outreach. I think it's actually week 7, not week 6. But I lose track of the weeks. I'm pretty sure it's week 7, not week 6. So if you're watching this live, YouTube or LinkedIn, please do comment. I want to know, what's your current response rate on your first follow-up message. Do be honest. Let's see where everyone's starting from. And if you ever want to have the complete 48-hour sequence template with all 3 messages pre-written, ready to adapt, just comment 48 hours in capital letters and I'll send it over to you. Thank you very much for joining me today. It's been a pleasure. I hope you found this session really helpful and useful, and it's added value to all that you're doing.